Anxiety lingers in my mind, but I am drawn to this place like a moth to a flame. There's a sign in front of the trail that says, Tribal Park, no trespassers allowed. Can't we come in here? I ask my fiancé Steve and his friends. Everyone just laughs in response. Carolyn, don't start ahead of time. Trevor rolls his eyes. Every year we do this group trip. All the newbies have to go through this ordeal. Like Nancy, 2 years ago, remember? Mitchell adds, pointing to the blonde girl I met just a couple hours ago. She nods sympathetically and kisses her husband Anthony on the cheek with exaggerated tenderness. Gotta prove you're a good fit for our company. A little trespassing never hurt anyone. Oh, and I have my lucky hat, Dick says, adjusting his red hat on his head and smiling at me. Don't worry, I have a satellite phone and we brought maps, just in case. He pats me on the back reassuringly as the group steps over the taut chain guarding the entrance. 5 hours into the hike, I see a fawn with white spots and a striped tail emerge through the plane trees into the sunlight. The female peeks out from behind the trees, looking back at us. Her onyx-colored eyes meet mine. A deer, Nancy exclaimed, pulling out her camera. It's so cute. They're usually out of sight at this time, I remark as I watch the mother and cub run away. A shiver runs through my body. This is not a place for strangers. We walk until dusk and then camp. We drink drinks and tell scary stories until everyone is tired. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. The sound of footsteps wakes me from a dreamless sleep. Steve is snoring quietly beside me, and it's as dark as it is outside. I grab the flashlight, figuring it's one of the guys trying to scare me. The sound of a tent zipper and zipping breaks the silence of the campsite. 5 dark domes of tents are visible all around, silent and still, like graves. I point the flashlight into the darkness of the forest and shudder involuntarily. I take a few steps forward, trying to calm myself, but my anxiety only increases. This isn't funny, I shout, feeling my voice shake. Suddenly, I hear a rustling sound to my left, as if someone is breaking branches. Leaves rustle and the crunch of sticks makes me shudder in fear. The wind whistles through the tree branches like a mesmerizing siren, beckoning me deeper into the forest. The lantern beam swings chaotically among the intertwined branches, looking like the claws of a monster. Suddenly, the light reveals white, bifurcated horns protruding from its skull, long and sharp in front. Knotted vines wrap around its deer-like body. It stands on hooves, and long, claw-like fingers stick out of its arms. Empty eye sockets meet my gaze, and my heart starts to pound frantically, my feet carrying me back down the same path as before. The stomping of hooves grows closer, and I almost fall when a jagged stone digs into my ankle. A shriek rips from my throat. I wake up as the first rays of the morning sun penetrate the tent. My heart is still pounding, but I realize it was just a nightmare. Finally, sleepyhead. Steve laughs. My heart is still racing and my head is splitting, but I try not to give in to my anxiety. Hey Carolyn, you survived your first night, Mitchell jokes, poking his head into the tent. I force myself to smile, even though my whole body aches from sleeping on the rocky ground. Yeah, slept like a baby, I lie, trying to hide my anxiety. Mitchell laughs, his blue eyes almost disappearing under his freckled cheeks. Trevor seems to have pulled ahead again, he adds as he gathers his gear. Every year he strives to be first to the top. Mitchell rolls his eyes. Is it safe to walk around here alone? I whisper in Steve's ear. He runs a finger through his beard, pretending to consider the answer. No, definitely not, he replies in a serious tone, but I see a sparkle in his brown eyes. I playfully nudge him with my elbow, and he laughs. Soon the group is heading uphill again. By the time we reach the next checkpoint, the sky is already pink. In the distance, against the mountain breeze, a hawk soars majestically, its broad wings flapping in the wind. It lets out a shrill cry that sounds like a warning. Turner, damn it, where are you? Mitchell calls loudly, turning to the forest. The plateau where the camp is located is empty. No sign of Turner. I look around and spot a deer glimpsed among the trees in the distance. I have a strong feeling we shouldn't have come this far, Maybe he went to the next place, Anthony suggests, shrugging his shoulders. Nancy, clearly concerned, hugs him tightly around the shoulders. Are you okay? Steve asks. I nod in response, but everything turns upside down inside me, and the grinding of my teeth gives away my anxiety. The others didn't seem too concerned about Trevor's absence, immersed in beer and laughter that temporarily drowns out their fears. I decide to go to bed early, citing the headache that throbbed in my temples. Sleep comes quickly, but the disturbing images do not leave me. A white skull with empty eye sockets haunts me in my dream, and I run through the forest, feeling the branches slap against my skin. The green leaves gradually turn red. There is a whistling sound in the forest, and I wake up suddenly. Did you hear that? I ask, but as I point the flashlight at Steve's seat, I find that he's not there. My heart starts pounding frantically. Steve, I shriek, feeling fear overwhelm me. I leap out of the tent, clumsily lighting the trees with the trembling beam of the lantern. I want to scream, run, do anything, but I freeze, paralyzed with terror. Suddenly, a dark silhouette appears in the darkness, and the blood in my veins runs cold. The crack of a branch brings me out of my daze, and I shriek, Carolyn. I hear Steve's voice. He shields his eyes from my light, his face contorted with irritation. I try to laugh, but the laughter comes out through tears that turn to sobs. Steve wraps his arms around me. I'm sorry, was all I could manage to get out. Anthony, Nancy. Mitchell's voice is heard, waking me up. I look around and notice again that the place next to me is empty. Climbing out of the tent, I see the guys wandering around, clearly concerned. Do you think they went looking for Turner? Dick asks, adjusting his lucky hat. I don't know, man. First Turner, now this. Maybe we should call the Rangers just in case, Steve interjects. But why would they leave the tents if they went after Turner? Wondered Mitchell, shaking the dust off the roof of the tent Anthony and Nancy shared. Maybe they figured they'd catch up with him faster without the gear, and we'd pick up their stuff later, Dick complained. What if they're in trouble? Steve says in almost a whisper. What if they're up there just laughing at us? Dick objected, frowning. His irritation is clearly building. The boys decide to take turns carrying the extra equipment, and we move slowly, as if surrounded by a thick fog of gloom. When we finally reach the next campground, the missing friends are nowhere to be seen. They wouldn't have gone to the peak without us, would they? Steve asks, running his hand through his hair. Who knows? But no one is looking for anyone today. We're staying together, Mitchell commands. This time no one drinks or tells stories. Instead, everyone disperses to their tents to go to bed early. Do you think something happened to them? I ask. No, it couldn't. There are no bears here, and they're not stupid enough to get lost, Steve assures me. Still, the feeling of unease continues to plague me, and the thought of what happened is pounding in my head again. Did you hear the whistling last night? I suddenly remember. What? No. But you know you can't whistle at night, he replies. Do I need to know that? Why? I wonder. You're a local. Steve turns off the flashlight and zippers up the sleeping bag. I don't understand anything, but fatigue takes its toll, and I fall asleep quickly. The sound of hooves on stones and dirt echoed through the forest. Then there was a whistling sound, not like a melody, but a haunting sound, like the wind through the trees. It intensifies, turning into a howl. I sit up sharply, covered in sweat, breathing like I've just run a marathon. Steve. I reach for him, but stumble into a cold, empty space. My fingers fumble for a flashlight, and I turn it on. The light wraps around me like a blanket, shielding me from whatever lurks outside. The shadow outside the tent grows larger, drawing closer. I pull my knees up to my chest, contemplating whether to turn off the light, but I can't. The light is my only lifeline. The tent zipper unzips and Steve's face appears, his eyebrow raised in question. Did I wake you up? He asks. No, just a bad dream. It's still early, but there's a storm coming toward us. Dick has gone up with extra gear in case we find the others. Got it, I reply. We are packing up at record speed. The air is thick with humidity, the sky darkening. I step outside the campground to deal with a need, and suddenly I see it. A bright red scrap of felt. I pick it up, wondering if it's trash or something from our camp that was carried away by the wind. I turn the piece over and notice the gold embroidered letters S and F superimposed on top of each other. It's a piece of Dick's happy hat that he never takes off. My heart clenches, my breath catches. My heart is pounding so loud I think the whole forest can hear it. What if Dick is dead and the killer is still around? A ghostly memory runs through my fingers, reminding me of the cold, empty blankets beside me. No, it can't be Steve. Carolyn, are you coming soon? We need to get going before the storm hits, Steve yells from the woods. I quickly stash the scrap in my pocket and sigh deeply. Dark clouds are looming, as if reflecting my inner restlessness, heavy and ready to burst. I wait, biting my tongue, until Mitchell distances himself enough to ask the question that's been bugging me since last night. What did you mean about whistling at night? I ask. Oh, yes, it's strange you don't know. My grandmother told me a story about how an Indian friend once scolded her for whistling at night. Whistling, she said, summons evil spirits, shifters. That word alone sent a chill down my spine. A shifter? What the hell is that anyway? It's something non-human, capable of changing shape. In its true form, it looks like a deer with a skull walking on two legs. I freeze as the first drops of summer rain begin to fall on my face. It can turn into anyone, speak in their voice, look like them. Steve falls silent, as if realizing something. Last night I heard whistling. I thought someone had decided to make a joke. Then I saw Dick in the woods. He said he was going to get up early. I pull a piece of hat from my pocket and hold it out to Steve. I don't think it was Dick, I say. Our gazes meet, and our fingers intertwine tightly, as if for a lifeline. Steve opens his umbrella as the rain intensifies. We don't let go of each other. By the time we reach the next campground, the rain has stopped, leaving us with our boots drowning in mud. It doesn't surprise us that no one is here again. Mitchell doesn't even mention it, just starts pitching his tent across from ours. As soon as he leaves to go about his business, I snuggle up to Steve. What if Mitchell is a shifter? I whisper. I've known Mitchell for 20 years. This is something else. What shall we do? Leave. My voice comes out louder than I planned, and I hastily cover my mouth with my hand. Heck, Dick had a satellite phone, and there's an old ranger station with a phone at the top. It's only a day's ride away, so we're just moving on. What else is there to do? Hey guys, Mitchell's voice makes us wince, and he smirks, noticing it. What are you whispering about? Carolina's already freaked out and wants to turn off the route. Come on dude, you know it's not normal to disconnect like that. Steve interjects, but Mitchell only chuckles. We're adults. If someone decides to quit, that's their choice. Anyway, the whole point is to get to the top. Get to the peak and prove you're a worthy member of the group. His dark blue eyes meet mine, a stormy ocean bubbling in them, and I feel myself being sucked into those depths. Okay, let's get some rest and continue tomorrow. If we don't find them, I'll call the rangers. Steve turned away and began to take the tent apart. It comes at night. It doesn't want us here. I whisper in Steve's ear. It's okay. His voice shakes. It's going to be okay. But I don't believe him. We leave the lantern on and put the hunting knives next to it. Fear keeps me awake, and I fight the drowsiness until morning begins to take over. My eyes flutter back and forth until I'm awakened by a shrill whistle in the woods. I look over and see that Steve has dozed off sitting up. I shake him by the shoulder, and his eyes immediately pop open. It's the whistle. It's Mitchell. I yell, and we both jump out of the tent with knives and flashlights in hand. Mitchell, Steve calls out, but there is silence. He looks into Mitchell's tent, but it's empty. Mitchell, he shouts again, panic audible in his voice. Suddenly, a loud snap comes from the woods, and Steve doesn't hesitate to rush into the darkness. No, I shout after him, but he doesn't hear. The whistle comes again, a long, ominous sound that echoes through the trees. My heart pounds like a drum. Panic grips me, and I run after Steve into the darkness. I can't lose him. With each step, my world grows darker, sinking into the night. Just a little longer, Steve says. The wind rustles the leaves, and we both freeze. A single tear rolls down my cheek. I stare at the muddy path leading into the vast darkness. Suddenly, a whistling sound comes from behind the trees ahead. I bite my lips so hard that there is a metallic taste of blood in my mouth. "Run!" Steve yells. Clutching my flashlight and knife, I rush up the trail. The forest begins to thin, and a clearing opens up in front of us. The ranger station looms in the distance, and I rush forward as fast as I can. Steve overtakes me. "Hello. Is this the ranger station?" "Hello." Steve yells into the receiver, but there's no answer. I shine the flashlight on him, seeing the fear frozen on his face and the phone cable cut in half. The glint of his knife, which he's still holding tightly, is reflected in the dim light. His eyes meet mine, and his face darkens. "You were the only one who knew about the shifters. Every time the whistle blew, you weren't there, and you had blood on your hands." My voice shakes, and my legs grow weak. "I was always looking for you. Every time you disappeared, I scrubbed the blood off you." His eyes widen, and the flashlight in his hand shakes with him. "Don't go into the woods, or you'll remember. No trespassers allowed." Memories of blood dripping from fangs burst into consciousness. Shreds of clothing and limbs flutter like feathers. I forget when I'm gone, but I'm home now. This is my home. They don't belong here. I shudder, my flesh slipping away, revealing deer skin. Black eyes bore into my skull, an empty abyss instead of a soul. A whistle catches in my throat and hisses out of my bony teeth. It's a melody that has been played for millennia. It's the last sound the uninvited guests hear.